Pre-scheduled appointments are some of the best ways for Medicare specialized insurance agents to keep their pipeline full and grow their business in an efficient way. They don't have to waste time scheduling their own appointments. They can literally start their day and have an entire pipeline and day scheduled for them on their calendar of appointments that are just waiting for you to run them, okay? Now, that being said, I get asked all the time about Medicare Express pre-scheduled appointments and how they differ from a company that I now co-own, Lead Heroes, on the pre-scheduled appointments. And while I don't know everything about the Medicare Express system and kind of how they do things, they make it incredibly secretive for some reason, right? They don't really like to put a lot of this stuff out there publicly in terms of the details of how they're generated. Some of the prices are a little tricky to find. I've been able to kind of do some research, talk to a lot of people far and wide of multiple different kind of segments and sizes of businesses that have worked with Medicare Express. And based on what I know, I'm going to give you a comparison side by side of kind of the pros and cons of what we're doing with pre-scheduled appointments at Lead Heroes versus what they're doing at Medicare Express. I've worked every type of appointment you can kind of think of, every type of lead type over the years as an agent, right? And one thing I can tell you is everything has its pros and cons when it comes to different appointment types, right? And you know, this video is not to necessarily bag on Medicare Express or act like I have all the answers in terms of what they do, but I do feel incredibly strong and passionate about the quality of service that we're presenting at Lead Heroes, right? Now, my company is an internal insurance agency. We're also an FMO, and you know, we actually merged with Glenn and Lead Heroes come January. And so, you know, prior to our merger, I was a client of Lead Heroes, right? And I was a client of Lead Heroes for many years. And, you know, it was always a very, very important and consistent part of our marketing attack. And the reason was because, you know, there's something to be said about the way that Lead Heroes generates leads and generates pre-scheduled appointments, okay? Last year during AEP, even before we were merged, the pre-scheduled appointment program was an absolutely pivotal part of our AEP being very successful during AEP, and I believe it will be this year as well. So without further ado, let's just kind of jump into the two different services and how they differ and kind of what they look like, right? So let's start with Medicare Express based on what we're able to gather, right? They have two different types of options of what you can kind of pick. The first one is they have an in-home, face-to-face, pre-scheduled appointment, okay? That runs, from what we can tell, at $100 per appointment, okay? Now, this is in-home. From my understanding, for this specific service, they do not offer this as an over-the-phone telephonic option. Now, I'm going to get to the telephonic option that they do have in a second here. It includes a scope. It includes client information after, you know, kind of the information that the person fills out on the landing page. From what I can tell, they're generated. I can't tell if they're either generated online, on the internet, or through social media or something like that, but they're definitely generated on one of the two, if not a mixture of the two. And the agent essentially goes to the home and tries to sit at the kitchen table and do an in-person appointment. Now, the other option that they have, they call their instant meeting appointment. Now, their instant meeting appointment is a much lower reduced cost. It's about $39 per, but after kind of doing some digging, it's a warm transfer. So I don't even think it's necessarily fair to really even call it an appointment, right? It's a live transfer, which is a totally different type of thing. A live transfer is where, you know, a caller or somebody gets, you know, a person on the phone and then they transfer it to an agent, right? We can do these as well at Lead Heroes, but it's part of our custom calling, you know, packages rather than just a fixed cost. In a lot of areas, you know, they can get either, you know, live transfers for that same price, if not a little bit lower. Just kind of depends on the area, but it's something that it's not a new thing by any means. And I believe, I don't know, I just don't feel great about referring to it as an appointment, although it is how it's advertised by Medicare Express as far as I can tell, even though it just seems to be a live transfer. Now, on these instant meeting appointments, live transfers, if they are billable if the person stays on the phone with the agent 10 seconds or longer, okay? And they're not refundable of any kind. Now, on the $100 per appointment, face-to-face appointment, if the client, you know, doesn't have Medicare or they're not home or something like that, they will replace them as far as we can tell, okay? The other thing about these is they will let you order with no minimum, right? You can order one at a time if you so choose, which is kind of an interesting thing. So that's a little bit about Medicare Express. Okay, so now let's talk about what we have going on at Lead Heroes. Okay, so at Lead Heroes, we offer two different types of Medicare appointments. We offer face-to-face in someone's home as well, and we offer over-the-phone telephonic, essentially pre-scheduled appointments where the person's been verified over the phone. And I'm going to kind of put those prices up on the screen now. Okay, so with what we got going on over at Lead Heroes, okay, we have a minimum order of 10 appointments that you have to get at a time. You can't get less than 10. If you order over 100, the prices on them actually go down based on the bulk order of it. So for example, right, if you do a face-to-face appointment and you get 10 or more, right, that they're about $99 per, so about the same price as Medicare Express at the $100. We're $1 or less. Now, if they get 100 or more, that bulk discount kicks in, and then they're $88 per appointment. If they do it over the phone, if they get 10 or more, they're $88 per appointment. If they get 100 or more, they're $80 per appointment. Okay, so with Lead Heroes, the way that we generate these is essentially the client fills out a form very similar to Medicare Express. That's an online form that essentially allows them to opt in, to that contact. And then one of our callers from our call center calls them and double verifies them telephonically. Now, if you're not familiar with kind of telemarketed leads and telemarketed kind of marketing, I myself am a huge fan of it and a big proponent of it because there's just nothing like a voice-to-voice contact in terms of having that verification process. Landing pages, social media marketing, none of it can really compare because it's not a human-to-human interaction. It's not a human-to-human contact. Okay. Now, at Lead Heroes, we will replace these pre-scheduled appointments under certain circumstances. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. We'll replace it if, you ask us to generate in a certain area of yours, and maybe we generate it in a completely different area or anything like that, or maybe the person, is just totally like the wrong age or something, right? You're looking for people on Medicare and you get someone that's like 30 or 40, right? Like under those types of circumstances, we will, on a case-by-case basis, replace those as well, but we will not replace them if maybe you just show up for the appointment and the person's not going to be there. Reason being is because no matter what the lead source type is, there's always going to be no-shows. And what we found is if the agent is willing to follow up with that appointment, there's so many times that they're able to get in contact with them at a later time, maybe a couple days later, maybe a week later, and make sales an often amount of the time if the agent is willing to play a little bit of a follow-up game. So the lead or the appointment is not wasted in that regard, okay? And what we got going on at Lead Heroes, it's a very unique type of service that I believe that, you're not going to find anything quite like it at all, right? Our call center makes up over 200 callers, depending on the time of the year, anywhere between 200 to 250 callers. And they are exceptional in terms of getting in touch with people, verifying people. We have immense technology internally that allows us to kind of, run through this process. It's not something that's easily duplicatable in terms of what we're doing at Lead Heroes. We've seen a lot of people have great success with the pre-scheduled appointment system, right? As I mentioned earlier, right? Even before I was involved with Lead Heroes as a co-owner, before Glenn and I merged our companies together, our businesses together, this was something that I used regularly as an agent, and I was paying full price, right? The retail prices, and it was a great ROI for myself and my agency, okay? Lots of our agents had a really, really good experience and continue to have a really good experience with these types of services, okay? So that being said, what is my opinion? Well, of course, my opinion is a little biased, but I do solemnly believe that the Lead Hero pre-scheduled appointment service, from everything I can tell, does have a few advantages. And this is what I believe they are. Number one, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I spoke to lots of people in preparation and doing research of this video about Medicare Express's prices and kind of how they work. It is interesting to me how secretive they are about everything, right? They don't really make a lot of it public information. They want to get on the phone with you. My office even actually reached out to them just to, to pretend to be a little bit of an interested buyer, so we could kind of get some information so we can make the most accurate portrayal in this video we possibly could. And we had a really hard time reaching anybody. It was insane. It took us about a week to even have a conversation with somebody. So that was definitely interesting. You won't find that at Lead Heroes. You can get an answer the same day on anything you'd like to know. We also put all of our pricing publicly available on our website. But like I mentioned, I talked to people far and wide that have used the Medicare Express system, right? all the way down from single agents that are just trying to grow their book of business and they're by themselves and they're just getting started, all the way up to people that have large, distribution businesses. They have multiple hundreds of agents that have tried to use it for their agents. And one thing that I consistently heard from a majority of people is the biggest problem with Medicare Express is their volume. If you look at their website, it's clear that they have a lot of really big clienteles, right? Groups like Pinnacle Financial, groups like Humana even. And what I found, and like I mentioned earlier, I've worked every type of lead under the sun. I've been doing this over 10 years. If you look back at the history of internet marketing, right? Internet type of marketing vendors like this, it does seem very reminiscent to me of groups back in the day, right? If you've been around this long, like Next Gen Leads, Benepath Leads, All Web Leads, NetQuote, some of these, internet lead vendors, and some of them are still around, but a lot of them are not. And one thing you found with them as an individual agent when you're trying to build your business is it was very easy for you to slip through the cracks because they ultimately ended up getting huge partners like, big FMOs and IMOs, carriers, call centers, things like that. And the volume of what they had to offer was essentially sucked up by these big players, okay? So if you were a smaller agency or a single person agency, it might have been very difficult for you with these types of vendors to get the volume that you want. And that's consistently what I heard from a large amount of people that I had conversations with that have ordered or tried Medicare Express systems. Like I said, I've never tried them, full disclaimer. I've never worked them myself. It's just based on what I've heard on this feedback. But it doesn't surprise me, right? Based on kind of everything that I'm seeing, it is a lot of very similar, and I'm seeing similarities to some of these vendors from the past that had those types of volume issues, okay? I talked to somebody that said, they ordered a handful of appointments and it took a very long period of time to kind of get the volume of them, right? They came in just a little bit here and there. And what I've found is no matter how good a quality of service might be, and I can't speak to how good quality of a lead type they're actually providing, but no matter how good of a quality of lead type that you can find, if the volume isn't there, it's not problematic and it's not scalable for you. At Lead Heroes, we have the ability to provide the volume that you're needing, and we can have very fast turnaround times to kind of get your appointments out quickly. I believe that's an advantage that Lead Heroes has exponentially over Medicare Express based on everything that I'm hearing. Also, the second thing, our appointments are they're less expensive. They don't cost as much. Yes, you have a minimum order of 10, but I'm a big believer that if you want to really give anything a good try anyway, if you're not willing to buy 10 at all, it's probably not going to work for you, right? You can't make a decision on any type of marketing or any type of lead type ordering 1 or 2. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So our pre-scheduled appointments are less expensive based on the facts of kind of the side-by-side comparison. And then in addition to that, I don't believe you can compare anything to a verbal verification process like we have at Lead Heroes. Like I mentioned, these leads are double verified. They're verified online, but then after that, before they go to you, they're double verified over the phone telephonically from one of our callers in our call center. And I just don't believe quality-wise you can beat that when it comes to intent. So in my opinion, of course, yes, I'm a biased party. I do believe that the Lead Heroes pre-scheduled appointment system is superior based on everything that I know. As I mentioned several times throughout this video, I don't know everything about Medicare Express. As I mentioned, the information was very difficult to find. It took some time in preparation of this video, but I wanted to be as fair as possible and as truthful as possible on everything all around, on all sides of this thing. If you've used Medicare Express and there's anything that I missed, please do us a favor and comment down below in this video. Comment your thoughts on this video, what your opinion is and kind of the side-by-side comparison. I'd love to have a dialogue with you about it. And if you want to order leads, if you want to order pre-scheduled appointments for AEP, there is still volume available from Lead Heroes. We can still take on some orders going into October. So I'm going to put a link to that actually at the top of the description down below if you want to get some pre-scheduled appointments. It's a great way to fill your pipeline. It's a great way to grow your business, this AEP, where the opportunity is rampant. And we appreciate you guys. Again, if you liked this video and you want to see more side-by-side comparison videos like this on marketing services or anything else like that, please do us a favor, smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It's going to help so many more people like you who have had this question. I've been asked this question a multitude of times. It's going to help so many people just like you who've had this question in the past find this video and really get the information they really need to make a good decision on things. Subscribe. We put out weekly videos that help you grow your business. Have a great AEP, everybody, and We hope this video finds you doing abundantly well and successful. Thanks, guys.